What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to put food on the table?
What happens when the thing that brings you your biggest success is the exact same thing that ends up ruining you? At one point in his career, Robin Thicke was on top of the world and the most sought-after artist everywhere. But just like his rise to fame, his fall was much steeper. No one would have imagined all that was going to happen to Robin, and you guys are in for a shock when you hear how his downfall really began. Before his rise to fame, most people knew Robin Thicke as Alan Thicke's son, and nothing more really. His big break didn't really come till 2013. Even though Robin had been in the music industry for much longer than that, he had been writing songs for a really long time, and he was also a producer for himself and some celebrities like Brandy and Christina Aguilera, to name a few. Before his major breakthrough, Robin had a hit single in 2017, Lost Without You, that peaked at the #1 spot on the Billboard R&B and hip hop song charts. Although this didn't put his name out there as he wanted, it was a good start. Robin's career was consistently growing, and no one could really deny this. And in 2013, he finally got the mainstream attention that he deserved. Robin was more or less on top of the world and the most sought-after artist in the music industry after the release of his single Blurred Lines. This song was one of the biggest hits, if not the biggest hit, to have actually come out in 2013. It reigned as #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 12 weeks after its release, and it smashed multiple records on the radio for the number of plays it had received. Internationally, Blurred Lines was just as successful as it was in the United States. It was the #1 hit in 14 different countries, and it ended up being the best-selling song on the planet in 2013, which was a crazy feat to achieve, especially for someone like Robin, who has yet to make his mark in the music industry. While Blurred Lines kept getting more popular, Robin's album of the very same name also debuted in the top spot of the Billboard 200. Needless to say, Robin was having the best time of his career. But what Robin didn't know was that the same song that had made him a global superstar would be the exact same song that would ruin his professional career. After its release, Blurred Lines had sold 10 million copies, but even that wasn't enough to cover for the harm that it brought to Robin. With time, as people listened to the song more and more, everyone began to pick things that they never really noticed before. I guess you could say part of the reason no one really paid attention to it in the beginning was because of how catchy the song sounds. But once everyone noticed what the song really meant, everything changed. Robin was accused of promoting toxic masculinity alongside a bunch of other crazy and inappropriate things. For Robin, the song was just a way to have fun, but what he didn't realize was that there were so many people that his lyrics ended up hurting. And even when he tried to defend the video of Blurred Lines, the director of the video called him out for making crazy comments. Like this wasn't bad enough, Robin's VMA performance with Miley Cyrus that same year would end up putting his career at a standstill. Robin and Miley's performance was extremely inappropriate, and that's putting it nicely. Now, after this incident occurred, Miley claimed that both she and Robin were in on the performance, but Robin claimed otherwise. Robin, in more ways than one, completely threw Miley under the bus and claimed he didn't know what she had in mind. And honestly, for everyone who watched the performance, it was clear that it wasn't just a coincidence. After a while, Robin ended up admitting that he took it too far with his song Blurred Lines, and even though he and Pharrell Williams meant no harm with the lyrics, they can't change the fact that it still hurts so many people. He apologized for everything, and for also crossing the very fine line between what's appropriate and inappropriate, but the damage was already done, and Robin was said to feel the full force of what he had done. Behind the scenes, Robin's life was falling apart because his marriage to Paula Patton, who he had been with for 21 years, was hanging on by a very fine thread. While this was happening, he started abusing some medication that he was given to take for his back injury. His whole world was spiraling out of control, and his actions just made everything worse. He admitted that he let the game and the other things get to his head, which led him to the very dark spot where he had found himself. Robin's attempt to save his marriage failed miserably, and Paula ended up filing for divorce from him in 2014. Now, Robin did try to move on, and he even made an entire album that was named after Paula because he was heartbroken. But releasing the album ended up hurting him more than he could ever imagine. Robin's 7th album, Paula, became a major flop and was tagged by The Atlantic as one of the creepiest albums ever made. Compared to his album Blurred Lines, which made its debut at the very top spot, selling 177,000 copies in its first week, Paula debuted at number 9, selling just 24,000 copies in the United States. Outside the United States, the figure was even worse. In the UK, Paula debuted at 200, the lowest spot on the ranking, and sold only 530 copies in its first week. While in Australia, it didn't even make it to the top 500 albums in the country and apparently sold less than 54 copies in its first week. There was a very obvious shift in the way everyone saw Robin, and he was no longer riding the waves of his first hit. Following his losing streak in the public eye, Robin decided to leave the spotlight and try and regroup, and then he was hit with a quick succession of devastating news. In 2016, he lost his father from a sudden heart attack while he was playing hockey with Robin's younger half-brother. While Robin was still struggling to deal with this horrific news, a year later, he also lost his manager and longtime friend, Jordan Fieldstein, to the exact same thing. And like things weren't terrible enough for Robin, he and Pharrell got roped into a publicized lawsuit where Marvin Gaye's children claimed they ripped off their hit single Blurred Lines from their father's song, Got to Give It Up. Then, in November of 2018, Robin's Malibu home got burnt to the ground in the Woolsey wildfires. Just like anyone else, Robin became devastated because he kept suffering from blow after blow. But he didn't let it put him down, and he saw his house burning as a chance for him to get a fresh start, which was exactly what he did. He signed up as a panelist in The Masked Singer in February of 2021. He released his first album in 7 years. Although it might have seemed like an impossible feat before, Robin found love again after his split from Paula. Right now, he and his fiancée, April Love Gary, have 3 children together, and he couldn't be happier. It might have taken him an extremely long time to get to where he is today, but Robin seems like he couldn't be happier, despite all that he had to go through. Don't forget to let me know what you think of Robin's story in the comments.